Hello and welcome to Around the Block. This is the supporters podcast of the Western Sydney Wanderers. You can find us on all social media, like what you're doing right now, watching us on YouTube, Around the Block, BLOC. Also find us on Spotify, iTunes, the website aroundtheblock.com.au, and many other avenues. And we thought we might do this live because I think everyone is under the same impression and the same thoughts that there are some problems within this squad of ours. Maybe not so much the squad, but the management of the squad. And to discuss this, I'm joined by Stephen and Josh as well on stream. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining. How are we, Stephen?
Oh, I'm okay, I guess. I'm okay before we're about to talk about this for the next hour.
So. You're okay, yeah.
You just ruined my night, Nick.
Hey, man, don't blame me. And Josh, what about yourself?
Look, yeah, I'm doing good. I looked behind you and I thought this was a Liverpool podcast, so I was in dreamland. And then I remember the Western Sydney Wanderers exist. So,
mate, you can join us. You can join us on the Red Sea Down Under next week, my friend. We're always looking for some guests, so feel free to join us. But no, we are talking about Wanderers, and we've already got 4 viewers. Thank you for joining us. And for those wondering, this will also be recorded via audio and uploaded as normal, as a normal podcast does. But straight off the bat, before we get into that fast, that was Saturday night. The game versus Melbourne City has been postponed. There is some issues with scheduling, so now it's moving to January. Josh, is that correct?
I don't have a clue when it's being postponed to. All I knew was it was being postponed. I haven't done my research.
FFA Cup, it's good to have that problem of having to reschedule games because you're in two competitions. We don't know what that's like.
But did they not plan? How's this happen? How did they not know it was going to be a clash? Because surely one of the 2 A-League teams would have been expected to make it this far. How's that happened? I don't know.
But our game is on the weekend, so are they saying the FFA Cup's on the weekend? Because they don't want to play it on Christmas Day? I don't know.
Who knows? Why anyone would want to play Christmas Day? I mean, we've gone through Christmas Eve, and I've gone through to a Christmas Eve match playing drums by myself, and that was fun, but grueling at the same time. But nonetheless, I don't know who the hell wants to play on Christmas Eve. 23rd should be the last day before anything happens. Boxing Day, I can understand. 27th, yes, but Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, yeah, question mark there. But City game has been postponed.
I just realised our City game was on the 22nd, which was a Wednesday night. So that's
okay, fair enough.
Because we got Boxing Day. We're playing Jets in Newcastle on Boxing Day.
So Josh, makes sense. Why are they scheduling A-League games in midweek when the FFA Cup was that time as well? So
silly decisions. But that's pretty much the main news at the moment. So when it comes to the team itself, and right into it, no 2 bits about it. We played the not new team anymore. They've been there for a season already. But Macarthur FC, the most local team to Western Sydney Wanderers, and it was. I know it's early to say a do or die match, but if you want to be in this competition in the long run, you really do have to perform. And Steve, we've said it plenty of times before, you can't lose your home matches. And what did we do in this game? We lost our home match 2-0 after a great first half. Troisi come out of nowhere, played like an actual footballer. He wasn't hitman hiding in disguise. He was actually out in the open. He had himself a good game. I thought first half at least anyways. Chances went our way. Macarthur were penned in. Maybe a half chance here or there in the first half. But then the second half really told, and you could see the frailties or the mentality of the squad falling to bits, where normally we're good in the second half. But let me know, what did you think of that first half performance first up?
Yeah, it was better than what we saw against RPR, that's for sure. But again, it's possession versus effective possession, right? We had the ball. Macarthur hardly touched the ball, but what do we do with it? Like I think in the first half, I think the keeper made 1 save off a set piece, it being his header, and that's pretty much it. Every other shot was like blocked the whole game. It was a better start to answer your question directly, Nick. But I feel like. What's your famous line? No, all swing, no ding.
Yeah, all swing, no ding. That's what it was.
That's what it felt like. And I told you guys in the chat, it's going to be a classic Wanderers. We're going to dominate possession and concede a soft shitty goal.
Thanks, Stephen. Josh, your take, anything to add contrary to what Stephen said? I think you're an avid viewer of the game itself. Look at the tactic on the pitch.
Yeah, well, I'm going to bring some stats in, which was completely unplanned, but I've just brought them up. And I think this absolutely sums up Stephen's point so well. So passes, successful passes, Wanderers 513, Macarthur 224. So we've had more than double the amount of passes. We've had 19 shots to their 9, so more than double the amount of shots. big chances, 0 to 3. So they've had 9 shots, 3 of those big chances. We've had 19 shots, not a single one of those classed as a big chance, which says everything. Exactly what you're saying. Effective possession was not there. We had the ball. We were doing some pressuring, like we kind of said. I would say I actually think our first half performance was also down to Macarthur. I don't know what they were doing. They kind of had Lockie Rose up top along with Al Hassan Toure. So 2 speedy strikers, even though I wouldn't have called Lockie Rose a striker till this year. 2 speedy strikers, and they just like tried to hit the ball long to them. And we, to our credit, we've been sitting this deeper line a little bit, which worked really well in the first half because we were just sitting a bit deeper and they couldn't get through balls and they were just hitting it and we could just mop it up and kind of build an attack. But again, we've got no idea what we're doing going forward. We don't. Like, the players just are not doing the job. There's no cohesive, it's cliche now, what's the plan? But there is no cohesive plan. I think there is a plan. You can see signs of it, but it doesn't fit with what the players want to do. It doesn't fit with the squad we've got, and it's just not effective. So yeah, that's what I think about it. So first half was good. There was some improved signs, but I think we were helped by Macarthur team that really took till second half to figure out what they wanted to do.
Do you think our plan is the more direct approach to attack? So I've noticed Macarthur sat back quite deep, right? And that it's been a problem of Wanderers ever since I can remember. We can't break down defenses. So the way we set up, going wide, crossing it in, if the defense is all in the box, it's really hard to break down. And it was just predictable cross after cross at a 45-degree angle cross every single time, or overhit to the byline or something. I feel like it was just really easy to defend against us. If Macarthur went a little bit higher, maybe we would have got behind them like we did. Remember last year was at Wellington or Brisbane or whatever it was. We scored like 4 goals against them because they decided to sit on halfway the whole time. I think they'd stop after once. Oh, actually, it was Perth. And Macarthur didn't do that. Complete opposite. They all sat in the box and just did not give us any space and let us have the ball at our own halfway line. Who cares? And we had no plan B to break that down. We didn't draw them out, or they were very patient to just bide their chance, I think. And then they hit us, scrappy goal, and then the second goal was off a counter. And just we were all over the place, right? So they if we played like that away, we'd be saying masterclass.
Yeah.
Because it's a snatch and grab. You soak the pressure for 60 minutes, 65 minutes, especially that last between the 55th, 65th minute before they scored, we were all over them, all right? We just kept putting the pressure. I was telling my brother, I was sitting in the fancy pants section saying, we need to score here. But I go, I can see it coming. Classic football, classic Wanderers. We're going to miss a chance and they're going to hit us on the counter or get a goal. And it was there. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like if they've worked us out already that all you got to do is sit back, every other team can just watch that. I'm like, they got nothing going for. We just sit back in our box, soak up a little bit of pressure for an hour or half an hour and just hit them on the counter when they come a bit more forward. And game's over already. Like that's kind of happened last year as well. We started off well and then we just didn't progress.
And that's it, right? Because it's like, so our plan, from what you're saying, what our plan is, it's not direct initially. Our plan's the opposite. It's very slow build up. Like it's very, very slow through Ugarkovic, through Antunes, whatever. And then they obviously want the wingers to cut inside and the fullbacks to push up. But there's no cohesive unit. They're not working as one, because that's obviously a strategy lots of teams do, right? Attacking fullbacks is probably every team basically does that. But it's got to work in one motion. It's got to be the wingers in, fullbacks then use that space to push up. What we're doing is our wingers don't know when to cut in. So when Nadjarine's been playing, for example, he stays wide too long, and then Aquilina has nowhere to go and he tries to push up and he's like, oh God, Nadjarine's in front of me. Kajira did it better, was looking better. I think it's not a surprise that our best performance, at least in terms of with the ball, came with Kajira and Troisi starting, because they're smarter than the guys they were replacing, which shows to me that the plan hasn't been drilled enough, hasn't been figured out, because it's just individuals figuring it out as they go along. And when you've got better individuals there, of course, it's going to work out better. But
that's what the plan is. Just replace the players with better players.
Honestly, yeah.
Well, what is the plan then? What is the plan in that case? What are we meant to be doing? What was different about this game? What I noticed, I couldn't watch the game properly. I was in Country Town Griffith, exploring the vineyards and the orchards and all that sort of stuff, quote unquote. I wasn't. I was there for a gig, but whatever. That's the joke. Catching up with the Angedretti and the old the old secret society in Griffith, shall we say. I tried to watch the game as best as I could. First half I was watching, I just went, wow, what is this team? Who the hell are we? Like, we were playing with purpose. Abini had a header that was right at the keeper. Kurto made it look spectacular, but it was like right at him. Had a few chances in that first half, but what I really did notice was Troisi moving around and playing like a player, because it's the first A-League game he started after his whole no vaccine thing. So whatever the situation is there, they don't really give a crap. My point is, he started, and we've been saying, where does Troisi fit into this midfield? And he's fit right in. He's done what we wanted to do. He was creative. He's playing 1-2s, trying to do triangles, trying to put balls in, switching the ball across the pitch and all sorts of things like that, trying to make things happen. It's just Petrados didn't really do much. Ogawa tried to. Abini is Abini. You sort of like know what you're going to expect from him now, which is kind of sad in a way, because you want to see more from Abini. But in saying that, I don't know what else there was, unless, give it to Troisi, take it out wide, as Josh said, and maybe try pop something into the box. But Macarthur just wiped everything away. Got nothing. We should have scored in that first half. 100% we should have scored in that first half. We scored in that first half, we maybe go on to win this game, because then Macarthur have to come at us, which would operate good for us, because then we have space to run in behind. But it didn't happen. They waited, bided their time. They jabbed themselves a couple of goals. And as we said, vintage Wanderers. So I don't know what the hell happened in that second half for them to fall apart like that.
The best chance in the first half was that peach of a ball from Magawa to Ibini.
Ibini, yeah.
He just stuffed up his chest, and the ball went away from him. It was classic Ibini. Like, every time he touches the ball, 90% of the time he's going to lose it, or his touch just lets him down. That was a perfect ball. I was like, the guy was like pretty much right in front of me. I was 10 rows back. Like, I was sitting there in the 1880 club, and I saw Ibini there, and you just see this perfect ball. It goes over the defender, lands perfectly, pinpoint pass. He should have scored. He should have just chested it down and volleyed it in. It would have been a perfect goal. But his chest, I don't know what he's doing, trying to chest it over the defender, and then I don't know what he was doing. It was complete stuff up. And then that's probably the best ball we saw all game. And then for some reason, Agawa was on the end of all the crosses after that, and he was in the box, and we're crossing to the guy's 5'0" against like big defenders. That made no sense to me. Like, why are we continually trying to cross the shortest guy on the pitch? It takes me back to what I've been saying the last few weeks. Are we light in attack? Because if Ibini's starting, we've got no one else. Because Hamed was out, and then we play Ibini up front, and like there's no other options.
Well, funny
that
you say
tells
that.
me that he doesnn't trust Jordan Swiber, who he signed probably a couple of weeks before the season. I think we had him on trial, and they obviously liked him enough to give him a run. I don't think he's played a minute. He came on late in the FFA Cup game, maybe very late on in a couple of the other games. I think maybe he had actually, but we got 5 subs, and he hasn't brought him on at least before the 85th minute. And so it's like, why have we signed this guy? What, like, I haven't seen him play, I'll be honest. I know other people who've seen Sydney FC's youth team or whatever said he was okay. But why have we signed this guy if he's not going to get a run when we're losing late, like in a game, or, what's the point? Because he's the backup striker, I think, that he can play up front, and they've signed him for that. But you're right, Stephen. Clearly, it doesn't matter if we've got another striker on the bench. If Carl's not going to use him, well, then we don't have him.
He subs were 10-15 minutes too late again, and then he brought on Lapane at like 86 minute, who had a great game against the FFA Cup, in a bad squad, but he was a shining light, right? And he came on 86 minute. What's this kid going to do in 5 minutes when we're 2-0 down? It's a bit too late. We should have made the subs around when we had pressure on him, 60th minute, like like classic 60th minute, and then get fresh legs out there. But instead, he waited, I think, till we conceded before he did the first subs. I have to check the stats, but it was too late. You could tell everyone's like screaming for subs. Macarthur's doing a sub every 5 minutes. They do another sub, another sub, another sub. Like, they used all their 5 subs, throughout the second half. Whereas we just like, I will wait till the 75th, 76th minute to do like a double change. Like, mate, you only got 15 minutes left, and now you're making a change. Like, it's a bit too late. Like, you should be proactive with your subs, not reactive. Especially when you're at home, you're almost chasing the game the entire time, right? You need to score, you need to win the game at home. You're not going to wait till you're behind at home and then you decide to do a sub. That's just poor management. I still think our bench is light, but you look at it, it's like there's guys that can do something, but you need to give them more time. So Ibini starting and playing 90 minutes is frustrating as hell. And if Hamed's going to be injured on and off, it's like we've got no chance of putting anything away. And Petrados is a shadow of his former self. Nick, you're on mute.
Sorry,
While
that's
it's
right.
on mute,
Background noise.
I just want to say this
for
comment that you've put on the screen, Nick, from Oz MLB players is actually really spot on. It's never clicked to me, but I think his subs are pre-planned, aren't they? Because they're not a response to the game at all. Like, I don't think a single sub he's done jumps out as being a genuine response to the game. It is almost like he's written it all out beforehand and just that's what he's done. Because surely if you're losing, there's no excuse not to sub every attacker you've got on like we did last season, right? There's no reason to not do that because we clearly weren't going to score with the players we had on the field. So I actually think that's spot on, to be honest.
We were doing FIFA subs last season, man.
Yeah, just quickly, that comment for those listening tomorrow morning is saying that
sorry, should have said that.
the subs they seem to be pre-planned. They're not a response to the scoreboard. Aquilina was walking off before his number was even up. So Aquilina is this straight sub with Russell, is just on and off every week. I don't know what the point of it is. It purely because I have 2 right backs or 2.5 because you've got Gordon in the wings as well, and I just need them to get minutes. So I'm going to make the subs. I don't know. It's not a response. That's right. If Aquilina, he wasn't getting smashed this time. He was actually going okay. I like the way Aquilina hustles to get a ball back, or he hustles pretty well. Up front is touch and go, but it wasn't getting destroyed like it was against Ewell the week before or 2 weeks before. I thought it was okay. So yeah, I don't know. It's a classic, like you said, Nick. It's a FIFA thing. Get minutes in the legs, but we're not about getting minutes in the legs. We're about winning games.
Yeah, we want to play. We want to win the games. And if you don't have Tom Mohamed, because he's out with the niggle or whatever, and Abini's leading your line. But this is what we said as well. Like, where are our strikers going to come from? Where is what we need? I mean, at this point, you'd probably choose Swibel over Abini merely for his size and his presence, because whilst Abini is tall, thin, and agile, I think Swibel's probably more suited to a Tom Mohamed mold because he's stocky, he's solid, he can hold the ball up probably better than Abini can, I would say. I think that's what it is. Josh, what's your take?
Well, on Swibel and Abini, yeah, it's like, what is it? Abini, we know his gifts, and I'm going to say this every week. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but we know what he's good at. He's good at hitting on the counter. And why are we playing slowly and just putting crosses in? He's tall, don't get me wrong. I think he's a target, but playing on the counter is lethal. If he gets a run at someone, that's what he's good at, So I think how bad can Swibel be if he's not getting a run in this team with that? I don't know.
Yeah, why have him on there? Why have him on at all if he's not going to be played? That's what I want to know. Another comment here from Devek. He's got 2 comments. I'll read this one first. The second one will come in later on. He says, "It's clear from this season that a team of good individuals won't compensate for a lack of pattern of play, tactical plan." That's a very good comment. I think that's what we've observed as well, Stephen and Josh recently.
Team of champions versus a champion team, right? It's that whole thing. It's the cliches are coming out thick and fast tonight. But it's so clear. I said that last week. I talked to you, Nick, offline as well, and you guys. How do we fix the defense from last year? We just bought better defenders. Like he said for 15 rounds last year. Oh, we're working on problems. It's not good enough. We need to stop. Conceding from set pieces. It was round 23 when he said that. It's like, what are you talking about? You've had 20 weeks to fix the defense, and you haven't done anything about it. And so the way to fix it is he just bought new defenders. And I'll buy a Socceroo that's played in APL and all that. And I'll buy a young up-and-comer is really good. Oh, yeah, look, we fixed the problems. Not really. You just bought better players. And arguably we had a better attack last year because the amount of weapons we had off the bench, we just ran over teams. And now it's like, on paper, we've got a good squad. You've seen all these other podcasts and media saying, like, what the hell's going on with the Wanderers? We've got a good squad on paper. But if you don't have a plan to use these players, you're relying on their creativity, in quotations, that he says, people have freedom and creativity to win games. Like, they will win you moments. An individual brilliance will win you a moment, but they're not going to win you a game. Messi can't win an entire competition. Ronaldo clearly can't because with Juve, we struggled everywhere. We didn't make the quarterfinals for 3 years, and he was bought to bring us the Champions League. It didn't happen. So an individual cannot win you a title. A team does, and the team is backed by the coach. And clearly, Robertson is not. He said himself he's not a tactical coach, and we've kind of seen it, mate. It's like the blind Wanderers fan can see it now. Like everyone can see it. After the Apia game, it was brutal on social media. Like it's quite obvious now. There's no in or out bus anymore. It's like everyone's on the bus. So we want to see something out of him. and he can say, "Blame me. I've got thick skin." Like, okay, that's fine. Are you gonna do anything about it?
Yeah.
We're gonna
Just
say we've only
blame
lost
me.
one game this season, so we're okay. We've drawn twice, won once, lost once. It's like, yeah, but the manner of how we've played is terrible. So,
Yeah.
lucky to get that draw and lucky to get that win when you
Yeah.
think about it.
Well, do you see Newcastle's result last weekend, or on the Friday night, I suppose, against Wellington? They pumped them. Was it 3 or 4-0, whatever it was? You can just goes to show, maybe we were definitely lucky to get that draw, because Newcastle definitely could have won if they play like that this season. They could be a threat. But Josh, you had a point to make about tactics.
Yeah, it's actually exactly like what you're saying, Stephen. Follow on from that. In terms of off the ball, right, defensively, one thing I noticed this game, and I will say full disclosure, I didn't see the game live. I had something on, so I watched it again the next day, knowing the score. So I did know we lost the game, and I was kind of like, okay, here we go. I noticed at the start we were pressing a bit higher up the field, which we've been calling for weeks. We've been saying press higher, hassle them, and I think that was good, right? But as I said earlier, like, we were also sitting deeper at the back because they've got these quick strikers, and also because we've been doing that every game. So I was also like, okay, we're sitting back a bit deeper. That's good because it stops the through ball to those quick guys. But the problem is you can't press high and sit your back line deeper because it opens up the middle of the field, right? So it was like, yes, he was doing the stuff that we wanted him to do, but you can't do both. And so I was sitting there going, they're going to find holes here. They're going to run over us, because I didn't know anything that happened apart from the final score. So I was like, they're going to find a way through here. And I think the fact that they were missing Davila was a big reason why we played quite well, because I think if Macarthur had Ulysses Davila, he would have had a field day in the middle of the park, because we had our forwards actually pushing higher up, but we had our backline sitting behind the halfway line, like 10 or 20 meters back. And so it was like, it reminded me of with like my all edge team, when we go press, everyone press today. We don't think about it. We just press, because it's just like, oh, that's the forwards just run a bit higher. It's like Carl's literally hasn't thought about how it's going to work, hasn't thought how the system's going to function together. He's just gone to his forwards today, press a bit higher. And then they've gone, okay, sure. And they've just done it. Like, no thought into like the reaction that's caused by that. No thought into like how the cohesive unit works together. He's just kind of had an idea and gone, just do it. And that's just what they've done. That's how it looked to me, because there's just no cohesion between the different parts of the team. The defense and the attack and the mids are playing a different game. Like, they don't have a clear understanding between all of them.
All right. In that case, Josh, another question from Devek. He's putting out the big guns tonight. He says, desperately need Nazarene as a 10 to give Antonis and Ugarkovic vertical passing option. Petrados plays like a luxury player, minimal defensive effort, and doesn't move into half spaces to receive a pass. I think we can clearly see Petrados still has more to his game. He's not playing at the levels we know he can play. You could probably say that about a few of the players. Let's be realistic here. But Petrados is that player who can win you a game with a shot from outside the box that goes top corner and no keeper is saving it. We have not seen anything of the like thus far, whether that's him not getting into those spaces, whether that's him maybe not being a little bit adventurous, or maybe wanting to risk moving forward to not to leave someone exposed behind, even though he's not really a defensive player. Maybe he's got that in the back of his head. I don't know. But is Nazarene at 10 an answer to our creativity? Because Troisi seemed to play a good game, as we've said. But if you want to fit Nazarene into this, you play a galwa on the right, which I've got no issue with. On the left, that's the question then. Who do you play on that left side? In which case, who the hell comes in the middle? Because you don't play Troisi on the left.
You could.
You could.
I could see Troisi playing on the left, because remember the left winger, and they've all been doing this, is to cut inside for Adama Traore. So really, Adama Traore is playing as the left winger, right? Because he's the one bombing on. I know he's a left fullback, but so I think the only thing that suffers if you have Troisi on the left and Nadjarine in the middle is you lose some pace. So maybe you need to put a beanie in the team, either up front with Ogara on the other wing, or whatever you're gonna do. But I think Devek, like I was saying that weeks ago, Nadjarine at 10 I think is a good call. The only counter to that is obviously we've seen Troisi's done actually decent there. But I would love to see Nadjarine get a run there, because as you say, he's dropping into those spaces. He's got the touch to turn and the agility. So it was round 1 against Sydney. He was the only one who could drop into those spaces, get the ball with his back to goal, and actually turn a player and actually find something to move the ball forward. Because that's what we're struggling with. We don't have the players that can find that space to receive the ball, turn, and move the ball up the field. That's just what we're not doing. And Petratus looks lost. Petratus, as we can all see, and as you just said there, Nick, he needs to get the ball outside the area, and he's lethal. I don't want any other player in the league getting the ball there apart from Petratus, but it's not happening. He's lost. He doesn't know where to go. He hasn't been shown where to run, and he doesn't have the instinctive feel to find those spaces. So I think if he's not finding it, get him on the bench, put Nadjarine there and Troisi there, or whatever you're going to do. It has to be one of the two, I think.
So just quickly on Petratus, Nick and Josh, is it him having a poor season, or is it the fact that there is no plan and no game plan, and he needs that to know to play well? That's my. No, I'm thinking like he can't just suddenly come from overseas where he's been lately and just become a poor player. He had the great season with Newcastle and all that sort of stuff. Is that because there was a good structure in those teams and then he knew his role and just did his role? But now it's like Robinson's like, oh, go for it, do whatever you want. And he's like, I need a structure around me, mate. I need to know where people are going to be. I need to know where I'm supposed to be. Maybe he's one of those players. I don't know. I'm not going to talk for him, but it just seems like a bunch of these players on paper, they're not performing to how we expect them. So is it the player's fault, or is it the structure fault and the lack of game plan? Again, what's the plan? Almost like that's a running meme at the moment. I'm starting to think it's the latter now. It's not the players. You bring another coach in, like we've talked about multiple times with Wanderers. On the paper, we've had a good team. You bring a decent coach in, he can turn this team into a championship winning side. So this goes back to the whole, is it the coach's fault? And I've had arguments with my dad over the years for 20 years. Like, yeah, you keep blaming the coach. It's the players. It's quite obvious. A good coach can get shit players to play well, and a shit coach can have good players play poorly. We've seen it in football over the years for decades, right? So it's leaning more and more that way, and ATB feedback pretty much talks about that as well.
Go on, Josh.
I think it is, because I was just going to make a point quickly. You see what the good A-League coaches can do with rubbish players, because we know Australian players aren't smart, right? On the whole, there's probably a few, but generally they're dumb, right? You see what Graham Arnold can do with Aussie players in the A-League, where he gives them simple instructions, he gets a structure that's organized, he doesn't make them do too much thinking for themselves. He gets the foreign players to come in and do that, your Ninkovic's and them. You get the Australian players and give them simple tasks and put them in positions where that can work. And I think someone like Petratus, if Graham Arnold's the coach, let's just say, I think he gets a simple job. He knows what he has to do. The system is built to accommodate for that. Carl clearly doesn't know how to get the best out of the Australian players. And I think there was the same with Babel before. Babel didn't know what to do with Australian players. He just couldn't figure it out. And so I think you're right, Stephen. I think, it's probably both. It's probably Australian players are just dumb, and Petratus probably fits into that. I'm not insulting him. It's just more in the context of the kind of guys Carl's used to working with, right? They don't have that tactical intelligence. And so you can't just rely on them to do it. You have to make a plan that can accommodate for them to have a simple role, know the movements, drill them inside out so they know exactly what they're doing. And because anyone can see, exactly like you said, Nick, a blind Wanderers fan could see that our players are not drilled in what they need to do. So I think, probably is the players obviously not being smart, but it comes down to the coach to recognize that and do something about it.
Yeah,
I think that was Stephen that said that.
Yeah, either way.
Whoever, yeah.
Blind or deaf, doesn't matter. It's you look at the successful coaches in the A-League, and you're right, Josh. It's Arnold knew exactly how to get the best out of his team. Popper, every team he's gone to now in the A-League has been drilled and know what their role is. You look at Ange and slash Gumby and Amor, that was a little bit different. It took them a while to get people to understand their style of play, but once they learnt their style of play and knew what they had to do, they did what they needed to do. And there's a bunch of clueless coaches that have come in that tried to implement a style, but they didn't have the right players for it, and too overcomplicated and all this sort of stuff, or just have no idea what the hell they're doing, and that's where we are right now.
All right. Well, in that case, if it is the case of players needing time to adapt to the coach's gameplay, why haven't they adapted yet to Robinson's gameplay?
He doesn't have one.
That's what I was going to say, because he doesn't have one. Exactly. So people then can't come out and say, give it some time. If this was his first season, you'd say, all right, give him some time. He's got a good squad. Let him work with it. Last year, average, maybe below average in some areas, good in some other areas. Duke up front with Cox when he was playing before he left, Muller coming on for cameos, and you had, of course, Thank you, Bruce Kamau, as well, tearing it up. Once he got going, you could see this kid is just banging it through. Bacchus was playing again.
In hindsight, Nick, it was individual brilliance.
It was, yes, but now we've got what I would say is probably more of a collective unit as a team. Williams at the back, Katrumbas is partnering him non-stop, Adama Traore on the left, you've got Aquilina on the right, or Russell can come into it. A midfield looks to be settled with Ugarkovic and Antonis, Petrados shifting on and off, Tracy in and out, Ogawa in and out, Abini, Hamed, Nazarene. So you've got like decent plays in decent positions, but it's like they're clueless. They got no idea what they're doing. In which case, you end up losing a game like we did 2-0 against Macarthur. I don't want to talk about the way we conceded the goals. Main point is we conceded the goals. But this is what Robinson had to say after the game, and he's always said, look, when we were at the fan meetup as well, he even said as well, look, you know, if anything goes wrong, you blame me for it because the players are doing things on my behalf. And if the players are doing things on his behalf, like you said, Steve, is it the players not knowing what to do, or is it just the players being poor, or is it players following the instructions of the manager? If they're following the instructions, then ultimately it lays with the manager. But this is what he said.
Can you turn it up, Nick?
What was that?
Turn it up.
Turn it up more.
We can't hear it.
That's a bit interesting. Let me suss this out here. Should be
Live
working.
TV.
It's live from New York. It's Saturday night. Should be on. Should be coming through. I don't see.
We can just misquote him.
No. I know. I don't know. I don't know. I know.
As you get that sort of, Nick, we're talking about game plans and things like that. Even under Gumby, despite the fact we had poor results, you could see what he was trying to do. Right? There were moments we talked about in our podcast. I remember speaking that, talking about the triangles and getting 3 plays in a certain part of the park and stuff like that. It might not have worked because it takes time for that to work, but at least you could see what they were trying to do. You can see some coaches trying to implement something just doesn't work for whatever reason. We've been asking this for the last 4 weeks. Well, what are we trying to do? Like, what is our structure? What is our game plan going forward? So it's really hard to say the players aren't following the coach's instruction because we kind of see what they are. Like it's bereft of ideas. We don't know what they're trying to do. So it's more and more pointing to now I'm hearing a read. I'm hearing a read.
No, it's probably me. Sorry, one sec. I'm gonna have to play audio. See if this works.
I can't fault their effort, their determination, and the way we played. What I'm disappointed with is obviously the outcome, and the outcome was we switched off with 2 goals. The first goal is important, takes a little deflection, but it was really the first sort of half chance of the game. So we're 1-0 down, and when you play a team like this, it's important that you don't give them the upper hand, and that's what happened.
How about for you, mate, personally? How do you feel after this one? I know everyone here is expecting results. I mean, that's just part of being a football coach, right?
Yeah, no, listen, I'm fine. I'm pretty strong-minded. I'm strong-willed. I'll continue to work as hard as I can every day and be open and honest with you. And, like I said, I can't fault the players today. If you want to blame someone today, blame me.
So there you go. That's what he said. What do you make of his comments, boys?
Question.
It's like when you're playing Football Manager and you've got the preset press conference answers you can choose from. It's like positive, neutral, negative. It's like he's gone for positive every week, just button mashing the first one that comes up. It's like we've all seen and we've commented before. He talks well and he takes responsibility and all that, but it's you taking responsibility doesn't mean just saying it in a press conference. We don't care about that. It's like, yes, as fans, we want to see the coach take the responsibility. Sure, okay, fine, that's great. But what we want to see is you fix it. Like, that's what everything comes down to at the end of the day. So, in terms of his comments, I don't care what he says so much. Like, it's interesting to hear him say it again and again and again. But what does taking responsibility look like? That's an empty phrase at the end of the day. Like, it's better than him going, the players are crap, they're all rubbish. Like, so the answer's fine, but it's like, this means nothing. Do something about it, or you're going to lose your job. That's the simple fact.
Yeah,
he didn't go down the Mourinho route of blaming his players.
Yeah, it didn't. Just say stuff like, what do you say about the goal? Oh, considering the goal against his side, a sloppy goal, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you had 65 minutes to go up 2-0.
Yes.
You're looking at that one moment where we conceded and said, oh, no, it's hard against a team like this. But you're playing at home. And they did nothing all game. And our possession stats were ridiculous in our shots that Josh mentioned like 20 minutes ago. It's just, It's like it's like he's shifting the focus to they conceded and now it becomes a hard task. What are you talking about, mate? Last year we conceded every game first, and we came back and did something about it. And he praised himself about how good the team was about coming back, like at the fan forum, like, we had the most shots and the most blah blah blah, and we always came back from behind. That's fine, but now you're saying when we concede against a team like this is hard. So which one is it, mate? Like, it's clearly he's just making things up as he goes along, and it's getting frustrating. Like, I want to be positive this season. I didn't want to be the negative guy again in a podcast, but it's really difficult to be positive because the positive thing is, we're in the top 6, but we're actually not. I look at the table, we're 7th now, so I can't even be positive about that. We only lost 1 game, but we lost 2 games this week, so that's even worse. And you just can't see us getting out of it. Like, he's got to start digging up. He's digging deeper and deeper hole.
Yeah, well, Devek's on fire with the comments. He's just referencing the bigger picture. He says doesn't see a pathway for our academy either. Katrumbas has been excellent, but where are the opportunities for Tass and Nada, our best centre back last year? And I think Robinson acknowledged it in the fan forum. He said Nada had to come in, never having played a full A-League game before, and debuted and kept his position. He was great. Tass as well. We've been screaming for him to be starting games more often. And the other one here, when he's mentioning Traore, he says we'll soon regress to the poor levels that Georgievski showed last season. Why don't we back Wilmering and Russell as left and right back? It's a good question. Where is Wilmering? Is he injured? He's just not selected. What's to go there?
He played in the FFA Cup, so he's there. But it's an interesting point about the youth because I remember when Carl came in, I was listening to lots of interviews with him and stuff before just to get a feel for him. And he said something that I thought was really good at the time, where he said basically his way of doing things is he always wants a pathway to the first team for every youth player. So he says at every club, he'll sit down with the academy staff and the board and everyone or whoever needs to be there, and they'll have every youth player that's in contention for first team or sort of in that picture. And they'll go, okay, what is their pathway to the first team? How will they end up in the first team? And he said basically how he likes to do it is he wants to have a senior player in every position, and then the backup be a youth player or someone who's coming through sort of thing. So that way they all have that pathway. And I think last year I think there was that, I would say. Not all of them made it, but particularly at the back, we saw Nada get lots of minutes. Tass was in. The fullbacks were pretty much youth players the whole season. So I think we did have that. Then it's like he's backtracked on this year when we've been talking about how he's wanted more experience and leaders at the back. He has clogged up that pathway well and truly for all those young guys who were not the problem last year, I would say, at all. No one's looking at last season going, Nada was the problem or Wilmering was the problem. And yet he's gone ahead and clogged up that pathway, doing exactly what he says he doesn't like to do. Because now Traore is there. Well, we've got 3 left backs now. Now we've got 3 right backs because we've got Ziggy Gordon, Aquilina, and Tate Russell. How does that work? We're starting 2 guys at centre back who Reece Williams, fair enough. No, I think no one can complain. And no one can begrudge Katrumbas based on performances. But it's like, that's what's going to happen. If you take away their pathway and give it to a senior player, of course the senior player is going to win. They're a senior player. That's how it works.
Katrumbas is like 23, isn't he? He's young.
But he's not from our academy. It's like we were not short in depth at centre back from our academy.
You start thinking like someone like Tass or Nada, what they could learn partnering with someone like Reece Williams. Like, that's your pathway to the first 11 and the armband, pretty much. You put Tass with Reece, and he learns how to be a leader, even more so. Like, he's captained like the youth squad, and even I don't know if he's captained the Oli Ruza and that sort of stuff. But he's in that leadership group, sort of, right? And he just learns it again even more. And Nada's even younger than Tass. And again, if he partners with Reece, you get that pathway, and these guys can be with the club for years and all that sort of stuff. But you're right. It's interesting how that's just been shut off because he's now going for results. The whole, we're bringing youth, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it was good last year and it was exciting. We almost made it, but we didn't. Now my job's under pressure. I need results. So I'm going to get rid of the 20-year-old ball boy fullback. I'm going to bring in a foreigner. The other foreigner has been dropped now because I'm in the back 3. So now we've got.
To be fair, Adama Traore is not technically a foreigner. I will say he's.
Oh, is he still? Is he Aussie now?
He can't play for Socceroos because he played for Ivory Coast, but he's been naturalized in terms of.
Okay,
Cote d'Ivoire.
I take that back. But then we got Gordon. That's not even on the bench, so that's another visa player wasted. What's with the visa players in the last few years that they just get benched, or it's like, why you bring them in if you're not going to use them? Like, the whole point of a visa player is they got to be better when you have. already at home. And it makes
Man, Robinson's going his whole Newcastle route. He's just put Katrumbas in there. He's put Petrados in there and Abini. So, you play with what you're familiar with. It's like, okay, we get that. That worked over there. Different players are around him. Petrados maybe operates well when he's got someone like Naboo on the other wing, for example, and he's got someone like O'Donovan as a striker. Whereas when he's playing alongside Abini, he's probably thinking, well, screw this. I'm just going to go myself and have a ping because I don't want to give it to Bernie, even though I like him and he's my mate. Still, he'll lose the ball. And, it sounds dumb, but these things do happen on the pitch. You boys have all played football. You know what it's like. Sometimes you give a player a chance, a couple of passes, doesn't work out, and you say, screw this, I'm going it myself. And you end up, skying it or whatever. But still, it's like, I'd rather take that chance than give it to the person who's meant to be taking that chance, if that makes sense. Maybe that's what it is. It's like he's trying to put together a team to play a certain way that is not working. The players have no idea what they're doing, and they're just running around, just spraying passes to one another. 500 passes plus against Macarthur, 19 shots, nothing to show for it. What good is having possession if you're not scoring? You know what I mean? It's that Sampaoli quote. The guy can be talking to a chick all night, for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, get nothing. One guy rocks up in 10 seconds, he's got a number, and he walks out with her. You know what I mean? Like, possession means jack shit. I don't care about possession football. Score goals. That's what I want to see. Goals. I want to see us playing and scoring goals, man. That's what it's at. That's where it's at. But I think we might move it over to ATB feedback. We're hitting the 40-minute mark as it stands, and this is what we asked today, or someone asked on the behalf of ATB. And ATB feedback says, if you were a manager, what would you do this week? Answer here on our Discord. Steve, do we have anything from Discord on that front there?
Turner he thinks he's funny by saying we should win the game, but yeah, we're done, Turner. Thanks.
Thanks, Turner. Thanks, mate. Don't forget to keep your hands up.
Mudgy's got one in here as well. So a lot of the answers were, let's just break it down first. Half the answers were I should resign myself, and the other half were formations and who should be dropped and who should come in. No one got creative with like I'm gonna do another video or another marketing campaign or something like that. So I'm disappointed in that sense. Rest Aquilina, Gordon or Russell to take his spot. Assuming Hemming and Rodwell are available, I would have them replace Ibini and Turnus from last playing lineup. If they both unavailable, we'll try Swibble Battleotto for Ibini and Tass for Turnus. I'll tell the team to run their ass off as we have fresh legs on the bench. And yeah, Turnus didn't track his player. Trooper's got caught, blah, blah, blah. Petralis keeps his spot as set-piece delivery. He did give us a few chances, but his dumb no-look pass gave Tommy Orr the chance to hit the post. So basically, top half the team was from Mudgy. That was all from Discord. So
for Discord. Well, Twitter, we got Belinda saying, see the writing on the wall for me and resign. That's what she would do if she was a manager. Do you think the writing is on the wall for Robinson, or do you think JT and the crew will afford him a bit more time, Josh?
It's interesting because the writing on the wall, it does actually feel like that. Like, it doesn't feel like he should be sacked at this second because we're 4 games in. But it's like I've noticed the media started turning, and now's the moment when there is actually media around because of all the new the restructuring and stuff. They've got even on I noticed on the official one, what's it called, Keep Up or whatever it is, the official news kind of source from the league itself. They had Garby and Rob Cornthwaite's podcast, and the thing of it was Kyle Robinson under pressure should he lose his job, sort of thing. So it's interesting, like even the official channels, Kyle, it looks like the writing's on the wall at this point, because how do we find a way out? I don't know if we find a way out. So from what Belinda said, I'm sort of agreeing with that it feels like it anyway. Like, I'd love him to turn it around, but it's feeling like it.
Go ahead, Steve.
Sorry, so I think some of that sentiment is the writing on the wall, because a lot of the media have, and the football pundits have looked at the squad like we have and said, this midfield, like Josh, you said 5 weeks ago, we got the best midfield in the league.
I stand by that. I will stand by that to the end of the season, individual-wise.
They're all saying stuff like that. It's like, how can you turn a midfield of this nature, like, boring and like inept? And so a lot of the official media and the unofficial media that is in the space as well, like similar to us and a bit better than us and all that sort of stuff, is they're all questions like, we're kind of boring to watch. We don't know what the hell we're doing. Everyone's saying the same thing pretty much. So I think that's why the pressure's on him, not more so the results, more the fact of the performances, like what we're talking about. It's like it just clearly shows we don't know what we're doing, and it's only been 4 games, but as this goes on more and more on, like the season, you're gonna drop points and you're gonna fall further down the table, and then so do you pull the plug early or do you hold out and hope he turns it around? Like I don't know what the answer is anymore, because second a coach, you need someone ready to come in and make a change straight away. Or not make a change, like grab the squad and put him in the right place. If we don't have anyone lined up,
Alan Stachich in February will be available. That's got to be. I know this was pointed out by GM Cal, and I hate to acknowledge him with anything positive, but like Alan Stachich in February, that's it. There's the coach. That's it. Decision made.
That's too late in the season. The season's gone by.
That's 2 months away. You give Kyle another month, presuming he doesn't turn it around. Then you have a month of Labby Halidi taking over while we pretend. I'm doing inverted commas for those listening on podcast. Pretend to look for a coach, and then as soon as Stachich is done with the Women's Asian Cup, he frees up. There we go.
If you want.
Well, Latino Styles says he's put a gif up of Ted Lasso pointing to a sign that says "Believe," and then Run the Meme says, "I would front the fans and ask them to believe."
Also, I hope that Latino Styles, that's a reference to the fan forum where someone asked Carl about Ted Lasso.
Believe. And he's got the fist pump going on as well. WSW Animal says accept responsibility and leave. That's a bit premature. We just mentioned that. Is it a bit premature to be like, yeah, this isn't working, 5 games in, so later, bye?
The coach is never going to quit because he can argue that we've only lost 1 match. So an A-League match, sorry. So it's only if he loses a bunch in a row and like, okay, I'm obviously not fit, but that isn't not yet.
Socko Channel Sean, Chanel Sean, Channel Sean, Socko says, load the boys on a bus and head to the Fred Chubb Lounge at Rudy Hill RSL. Lock the door behind them on the way in. Have an open bar and no one comes out for 2 days, old school style. If that doesn't fix it, the time for a clean out and start again the whole football department. What football department? 2 things. That's what I'm questioning.
Yeah. So firstly, it looks like we have been doing that before all our games, and that's the problem. Secondly, in Carl's words, I am the whole football department. It's all me. So you got one sacking to make there. It's like that joke, you know, a coach, a manager, and a football department walk into a bar. The barman says, "Hi, Carl."
Yeah. I'll rate that. Coupage Soccer Live says after 4 rounds, only 1 loss and 3 draws. A few players injured. He says, I'll be patient. This week is a must-win game, and his starting 11 is provided everyone's fit and firing. Interestingly, he's got Margush as a goalkeeper. I haven't seen a lot of him besides the FFA Cup, where he got chipped, you know, 2nd, 3rd time in his career with us. Traore, Williams, Katrumbas, Aquilina. I think he's put some Roswell, but I think it means Rodwell, unless UFO is going to take him away. Yugarkovic, Troisi in the middle, Abini left, Agawa right, and Hemed up front. Troisi in that middle, does that solve that creative issue if you're playing Abini left and Agawa on the right with Hemed up front? Do you think that could work, boys?
Oh, look, unless Troisi's on the bench giving the instructions. Actually, that's a terrible idea, just thinking about what I've just said. No, I don't think it solves it. I think it just, we see more of the same, to be honest.
Steve, anything odd with that starting 11?
Margush starting is interesting. I don't think Mahias has been really to blame for some of the goals, but then again, Margush wasn't last year that much either. But we brought in a visa goalkeeper. You're not going to bench him unless he turns out to be absolutely terrible. But again, we questioned that when he got signed. So most of that lineup is probably what we've talked about. And probably Margush is the most contentious one there.
Yeah. Rob Vad, shout out to Rob Vad. He says, if Hemed and Rodwell are fit, they start. Agawa Lapane needs to start as well, as we need speed. He said, I'll drop Dimi and Antonis until they're match fit. They actually don't look match fit. We've mentioned this before a few times. Antonis looks leggy. He just looks like he just can't run properly. It just looks like his legs are tired. And Petrados looks like he's had too much souvlaki and he can't get rid of that bit of a gut that he's got. I'm not saying he's fat, but he does look a little bit on the chunk side, although he's always been that way. But you know what I mean? A couple of kilos here or there, it might make a world of difference. But he's also dropped his starting 11 and he's got Mejias in goal, Aquilina. He's got Katrumbas, Williams, Traore, the back line, Yugarkovic, Rodwell, Agawa, Tracy, Lapane, and Hemed at the top. So Agawa, Tracy, and Lapane Interesting one there.
Your question, Josh, from a couple of minutes ago about who plays on the left wing. That's what Rob is saying. And Lapania was good in the FFA Cup, so why not give him a start? Like we asked for Galwa to start. It's like time for him to start and play 65, 70 minutes, and we're seeing that now. Rod would be starting if he didn't pick up a knock. I think now it's time for Ebini needs to be dropped. It's like the fact that he's starting every week and not really showing anything. He needs to be dropped as just being an impact player. I think for the last 15 minutes. I don't think he can lead the line anywhere across that front line. I don't think he can lead it. I ran into an old Wanderers fan, Nomad, shout out. I think he still listens to the podcast.
Oh yeah.
And I ran into him on the way home, and we talked about like there was rubbish game, blah blah. And I go, "Been easy. He's not a striker. He's not a winger." And we both said, "What is he? Like, what is he? Where does he play? Where does he fit? He can't.
Where do you put him?
Where do you put him on the bench?
Maybe benched.
It's interesting that like I haven't seen Nomad in years, right? And then we just say the same thing. We're straight away we're on the same page. It's like I think a lot of Wanderers fans will be on the same page for a lot of these issues. Where in the past, it's been oh no, you're wrong. I think you can see clearly that everyone's on the same page at the moment. It's Robertson has brought the West together again. Like,
united. Robinson, unite us all.
He was here 4 years ago. West Indian Terrace would not have been created. Like they would have just stayed at RBB, man. Like Robertson would have solved world peace. Like, it would like
create peace.
Judging
in
from
Western
his videos,
Sydney.
Robinson would be better suited as a capo than a coach.
Oh, rallying cry. Daniel Uru says that he dropped Aqua, Demi, Antonis, Ebini, maybe even the keeper. And Rob Vad says you can't really blame the keeper. The goals are really from a few meters out from goalmouth scrambles. He says he would drop Aquilina if we need another right back, but Tate was terrible in the FFA Cup, which is a fair point. But granted, he's been solid in the A-League matches. WSWRMX also says Ziggy's a visa player, which we've mentioned. Played right back and played most of last season. He was right back for the Mariners, so he could also do right back. I'm pretty sure we've acknowledged that in the past as well. You know what I mean? Rob says that he's never seen him play right back. Didn't watch him at CCM too closely. He reckons he's better suited to a 3 at the back, not around the block. As he put ATB, as he doesn't think he has the pace to play right back. Do you think that's a fair point, Josh? Do you think Ziggy can bomb up and down the wing?
Yeah, he played there one game last season, and he was all right, I think. I actually didn't mind it because, he's not as quick as Tate. And I want to see Tate play. I really do, despite the FFA Cup. Ziggy's not as quick as him, but he really ran hard that whole, like, up and down the wing all day, sort of. So I think you got 3 very different players at right back. If you can't get a tune out of any, like if one's not playing well, we'll try the next one. Like it's as simple as that.
It could be one of those defensive fullbacks, right? Like we've had in the past, like Deputsa and all that sort of stuff. They're not, and Neville as well. They're not the best going forward, but at least they're a bit more solid defensively. So, and if Agawa was in front of him, Agawa, we just have to do something to give him a bit more space to do something on the wing, but. You don't have to have a fullback running up and down the whole time. Like if we want to play a little bit more conservative, a bit more defensive on that right side, so maybe he should have been against Newcastle. So you might have chopped you a few times at least. Whereas I was talking to my brother on the weekend. I'm like, man, I still don't understand why we don't have these players that just chopping the other team up and like telling them like you're not going to think twice before you try and get around me next time. And that's what Sydney and that do in the past. Like they just rotate these fouls. We're not doing it. And I don't know what sort of game we're playing, but there's certain things like that. Like if a good player has got the ball, you should make him think twice about having the ball. And you want to get rid of it quickly and cause mistakes. But we don't have that in our team. Like who do you look in our team will actually make that decision to step up and just like make the other opposition like feel it? Like I don't see it in our squad at the moment. I know this is off topic a little bit, but that brings the whole passion fire thing. Like was it this week or was it Reece Williams when he fired up in the 87th minute or something? It was a bit late. I think it was this week. It's like that's a bit late, man. It's like we're losing 2-0. It's 88th.
Yeah,
like wasted time during stoppage time. We need someone to do that in the first 10 minutes against their best player.
Yep, 100%. Eamon Warner says he should resign. Dave Dempsey replies back, either that or put on the boots and show him how it's supposed to be done. Do you think Kenny Miller is a factor in this? Do we need Kenny Miller back on the sidelines yelling at the players, berating them? Because I reckon that game would kick up the arse last season.
Yeah, 100. He's an intimidating sounding man at the very least. Like any Scottish man yelling at you fiercely would scare the living daylights out of you. So it's not a bad shout. Like Labby's just too soft. He seems like such a lovely man. I ran into him at the shops once, and he was just the loveliest man. I was with someone who knew him, and it made his day to see someone he knew at the shops. You can't have that. You need someone who's terrifying.
Yeah, someone who's scary. Bosco says, say sorry for wasting our time. And of course, Mac at West Sydney Football says quit with the full stop.
But, sorry, Josh, that's a good point. Normally, they always talk about the assistant coach being. Oh no, you are supposed to have a bit of a opposite sort of thing, right? Like if the manager's a hard ass, the assistant coach, it would be like he's the friend with the players. But if they're both nice, if Robinson just talks a big game, is very charismatic, and then you got Labby's like quiet, like where's the fire coming from? Like from the leadership team that he brought in. Like I think we are missing someone to get up the players and really go after him. I don't think we got that. So is Labby part of the problem as well? Like I don't think he's ready for it. Like even as an interim coach, I don't think we're going to see much from him. So I don't know enough about his qualifications, how what he does at training and all that sort of stuff. But I feel like is the coaching stuff light as well? Like, are we missing something there? Like,
yeah, and I feel like we're missing because how I'd see it, right? And this has just come to me. So I was thinking about this is a huge tangent, and I apologize to everyone. But so Stephen Gerrard's obviously coming to coach at Aston Villa, and I was reading some stuff about him coaching because I'm interested in that. And basically, the gist of it seems to be is Stephen Gerrard's not the tactics man. Steven Gerrard. He's leading from the front. He's hard on his sleeve, the motivator, the passion, all of that. His assistant is a guy called Michael Beale, who apparently is a tactics genius. Every report about him says this guy's like an absolute wizard with tactics. And you get the sense that's what Carl needs, right? Because we know he can be the motivator. It's like he needs the right-hand man who's actually the tactics guy. Like the right-hand man who figures it all out, does all the stuff, tells him kind of, I can do this. And Carl could have the final say, but he's the one that's delivering the message, that's getting all the players going, that's leading all that. That's kind of what I feel like we are missing. Whereas Kenny Miller was also the motivator, just the angry kind of side. And Labby feels, again, we're not there. This is absolute rubbish speculation on my part, and I should never engage in it, but I'm doing it. Labby feels like he's the guy to work with the players one-on-one and be like, turn him like this, receive your body shape like this, like working with technique, stuff like that. That's how he feels. He feels like a really soft mentoring kind of guy, because at least from watching him on the sideline, that's how he comes across. So maybe that is a problem, that this coaching staff is missing a key element to it as well. Maybe, I don't know. Like I said, that's just rubbish speculation, but I don't know. That's the vibe I get from it, at least.
Well, coming up, boys, this weekend we are away to the Central Coast Mariners on Saturday afternoon. I believe it is an early kickoff, and the Mariners, at the moment, they sit in 5th place, whereas we are in 7th, separated by a point. And should we win this game, depending on the other results, we could slot into 4th place. But then again, Melbourne City are on 7 points, and they could overtake, and Newcastle Jets as well. They could overtake us, depending on their result. But when you're looking at our past fixtures, we had the 0-0 draw in the derby, a 2-2 against Newcastle, 2-0 win against Wellington, the 2-0 loss to Macarthur. Whereas the Central Coast, they had a 2-1 win against the Jets in the F3 derby, 2-1 loss against the Knicks. They had an FA Cup game in between, like very much we did. They ended up winning that game, lost to Macarthur 1-0, and they beat Sydney FC 2-0. So this makes for an interesting match. It's a 5 past 5 kickoff. I don't know, Stephen, any hope for this game, or is this going to be another X against Robinson and the Wanderers this season?
it sounds evenly matched based on what you just said. It could go either way. If he loses, man, I'm saying the same thing every week. We don't leave New South Wales now that the Melbourne City game's cancelled. We don't leave it for like 10 matches. So there's no excuses for realsies for real now. It's like you're playing up the road. It's like an hour drive up the road. It's not an away game. Like it's just. I'm pretty sure there'll be a good contingent of away fans because it's a 5 o'clock on a Saturday.
Yep. That's on a Saturday. Yep.
For an away match up in Gosford. For those that want to travel up there. I don't know. Maybe we'll play better away because there's no pressure because the fans aren't right there. I don't know. But if that's the case, that's a problem in itself. If you're going to play better away and not at home because you can't handle the pressure or the people with you. So it's becoming make or break, right? Because if we lose this, we start sliding down the ladder even more. We need to get a result, and I feel like I'm going to be saying this for the next 20 weeks.
I'm saying it forever. Josh, are we going to win against the Knicks against the other yellow team, the Mariners, or what's the go? What do you reckon?
I'm worried. I am worried. I don't know if you guys saw their game against Sydney. They put on an absolute show for the first half an hour. And Sydney, I know they're possibly in decline, but they've still got some really good footballers. And Mariners did them. Mariners took the foot off the pedal in the second half, and Sydney made a bunch of subs and sort of came back into it. But Mariners were all over them. 2-0 up. Halftime could have been 4 or 5. They got some good footballers in there as well. Like Marco Urania is one of the best players in the comp, quite possibly. He's a superstar. They got this guy Maresh who came in and was all over
Maresh
Sydney.
is
Was good.
Yep.
Nisbet's Tekers are great. Goddard, Bazanic in the middle too. Like they got really good footballers. And then they got all these young guys at the back, all these young coasties, like local kids come up through their academy, exactly what Wanderers say we do, come up and absolutely put on a clinic against Sydney as well, these young guys. So I think they can be got at. Like these young guys are inexperienced. We've got the quality of player to get at them and do them, but they're organized and they've got quality of their own as well. So I think it's going to be a tough game. And I think they're going to be absolutely, so they beat Sydney at home. The crowd it was a Mariners crowd. It wasn't the biggest, but they were absolutely pumping. And that's another home game next week. They're going to get a good crowd, a Saturday afternoon. I think there's going to be a really positive atmosphere there for the Mariners. Hopefully we get a big away crowd as well. But I think they're going to have a lot of momentum and they're going to come in strong. So if we're not at the top of our game, I think we could be in trouble. I think, Stephen, I actually agree. I think away from home will probably help us because we can do what we did against the Knicks and just kind of sit back and play as negative as we want. And there's no pressure to try and attack, which I think suits what Carl's trying to do at least a bit. So maybe that'll work out for us and we can do what we did and pick off some goals against the Mariners if they wear themselves out. But I think if we're not at the top of our game, I'm worried for it.
Well, just quickly, Steve, before we jump in, Maresh came off injured in the 70th minute, so wait and see what his fitness levels are like. Same with their right back, Lewis Miller came off as well. But in saying that, still, Joshua Nisbet, he's all a 4 foot, 5 foot, nothing. But man, the kid, I say kid, younger than me, but he is great on the ball. That low center of gravity, he's got great control, he's got great touch. He can pick a pass as well, so he'd be one to look out for. Bazanic is there as well. Obviously playing with Melbourne Victory, having played overseas and come back, etc. He's still got it. And Urania up front, who do you play for? Costa Rica? Is that who he played for?
I think it's Costa Rica.
Yeah, experienced quality player. And if you can take apart Sydney FC, even though they rested some players, still Nick Montgomery, obviously a Mariners legend down there, he's taken over from last season, and it looks like he's doing something right with them. He knows the club, he knows what they're about, and I think that helps as well when a former player has come in. We've seen it with Corrick at Sydney. Some will say, well, he's just continued what Graham Arnold started, but you got to remember he played there for a long time, so he knows what that club is about, what the fans about. Muscat at Victory as well. So it does help in a way. Robinson, obviously a foreign manager, come in here trying to do a job. But if you just look at the average age of that starting 11 for what I'm looking at the moment here for the Mariners, 24.7 years old, average age. Sydney's average age was 30.2. So there's almost a 5-year gap in an average. So you can see Sydney are an aging team, even starting with Bobo and Lafondra, or even them having been on the bench, you know what I mean? So it can go either way. I'm predicting a loss here. I just think Mariners will have too much for us. I think we're just going to go in this negatively. We're going to try and be that defensive team, but I think Mariners will just pressure us and we're just going to crack.
Mariners is a classic team that we have a homegrown coach and homegrown players, and it works for them. It's that region, it just works, right? And you can't, it's a whole locality thing, and you understand what the region's about, all that sort of stuff. And they've always done well when they've had like local players or someone that understands the area. That's what we're trying to do, but for some reason we haven't got that until since the first couple of years, and we're trying to do it again. But you can bring all the Westies you want back, but if you're going to have a non-Westie leading you, it's not the same, right? That's why people are saying Rudin and Stajic and all this sort of guy, like bring some Westie guy back to lead us. Rodwell should be back. That's what I was going to say, Nick. he said he was off for a week, so he should be back. So he might come straight back into the lineup. Not sure what happened to Hamed, why he was out. But we seem lacking in attack when Hemed's not there. He scored 2 goals in 2 games, like back to back.
Well, if we start with Hamed, we might be in with a chance. Rodwell as well, you expect him, if he's not going to start, he's definitely going to be coming on off the bench, 60th, 70th minute maybe. But again, who do you play in the midfield? Do you start Tracy again, Igarkovic and Antonis, Petrados, Nazarene, does he come in? Do you play bloody hell, getting my Greeks and Italians mixed up. Tracy on the left, and you play Nazarene in that number 10 role with Hamed and Agawa outright. Like, so many possibilities. But again, this is Carl Robinson we're talking about. What's he going to do? I'm going to get back to this. Back to this. What's the plan?
Throw the names in the air where they land. That's where you play.
Don't know. Gentlemen, score predictions, please. Josh.
Can I just want to make one point real quick, Stephen. When you talk about Montgomery being a local, he is from Leeds in England. But I just, for the sake of accuracy, had to jump in with that.
It's like saying La Rocco or Poland's taken over us after a couple of years, right? They became like honorary Westies. He's an honorary coastman. He was there for so long, right?
I know. Just being pedantic on my part. Just thought for this. I just knew someone would be sitting here. We're doing this live. Someone was writing the tweet going, Montgomery's not from Central Coast. So I'm just save them the effort. Delete the draft.
He's neutralized like Torres. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Score prediction. Oh, I can't predict a Wanderers loss. I will never predict my team to lose because I just hate myself when I do it. So I think 2-1 to Wanderers is what I'm going to predict, even if my heart isn't in it, even as I say it.
Steve?
3-1.
4?
I'm not saying.
All right. In that case, I'm going to say 2-1. I'm not saying either. I reckon it will be a 2-1 as well, but I'm not saying for who.
I guess it's a score prediction, not a result prediction. So
yeah,
you can do it.
Score prediction. What's the score? Fair enough. That makes sense. And you can pick and choose whether you want to say Wanderers win or the Mariners win, or if it's, well, don't tell me the score. All right, but you won't see any goals. It's like, well, thanks for telling me the score.
Hey, I got ripped on about 8 years ago in this pod when I picked Sydney in our little tipping comp in the derby. I'm like, well, either way I win. If Sydney wins, I get points in the tipping comp. If we win, we win.
So we win for you.
With your mind, not your heart. So I'm saying 3-1. I'm not saying 2.
Not saying anything. Well, there are a few days left before we take on the Mariners. There are 3-4 days. So Carl really should be working with the squad and his management team to pick him up and say, you know what, that was absolute dog shit on the weekend. We have to find a way to put chances away. And if it's not going to be Hamed, if we're playing, as I said, if we're playing with Tomo Hamed in a certain way, then put a player whose likeness is to Tomo Hamed, in this case a Swivel, because he's stocky, he's solid, he play back to goal, use the runners off the wings, a Riera. So I think we'll leave it at there. But gentlemen, thank you very much. This has been Around the Block, the supporters podcast of the Western Sydney Wanderers. Catch us on social medias. There's a link tree in our bio on Twitter, Instagram probably as well. Otherwise, Twitter at ATBWSW. Find us on Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever the hell you listen to podcasts, or just go to the website aroundtheblock.com.au. From myself, Stephen, and Josh, that is a goodbye. And please, let's just get a result this weekend.